It turns out that a crypto bear market is often the midwife of compromise. That often comes in the form of centralization, but this cycle, it also comes in the form of confiscation. Ready? Let's go. Today, we'll check in on the stake pool operator poll. We'll also discuss this confiscation issue, the fall of DCG, and Frederik on DeFi regulation. If you feel like these two would definitely confiscate your assets, or if you're finding value in these videos each weekday, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. And remember, above all, never delegate to multi-pools. A huge chunk of the community is in agreement about what you should do with this SPO poll. Here, Cardano Well says, if you hold and stake ADA, you have an interest in its financial success. Cardano's core competence is decentralization. Do your own research and decide yourself. But if you conclude your SPO vote is more focused on their bottom line than Cardano's success, a smart person would move stake. And I think that is the bottom line. That's the fundamental principle here. You should look at the way your stake pool operator is voting. And if they're not voting the way you would vote, you should redelegate. This whole thing is designed so the SPOs vote over 2 epochs, and then you have 2 epochs to redelegate if you don't like the way they voted. So if you do not believe that your stake pool is voting in favor of decentralization, and you believe in decentralization, and I think almost all of you do, then you should redelegate. If they're not voting for decentralization, you should redelegate. And it looks to me like a lot of stake pools, especially a lot of multi-pool operators, not all of them, but a lot of them are definitely voting more in favor of their own pocketbooks than in favor of decentralization. And if we come over here to the ADA stat dashboard for this poll, we've got a couple of new tools that bear a lot of that out. So one of the problems with this poll is that every single one of the options has 2 different parameters in it in different combinations. So it's kind of hard to see where the pools are on these individual parameters. AdaStat gave us a tool to check that out. So this, if you click on these arrows right here, it'll tell you how the pools voted on the individual parameters by pool stake. If you click on these arrows over here, it'll tell you how they voted on the individual parameters by number of pools. So if we click on this one, you can see vast majority of pools voted to increase K to 1,000. 67.8% of the pools voted to increase K to 1,000. That's a vote for decentralization because it decreases the saturation threshold. We'll have more smaller pools instead of these monster size pools. So another tool we have is if you take your cursor and you hover on those percentages, it'll tell you what percent of the vote for that particular option, in this case, keep K at 500, was by multi-poolers versus single pool operators. What would you guess? Who would you guess voted to keep K where it is? Don't change K. Don't lower the saturation level. Who doesn't want that option? Pretty predictable, but as I hover over it, shocker, it's the multi-poolers. The multi-poolers were 61.8% of this vote, which was a slim minority of the whole vote. But they were 61% of the pools choosing this option. And if we come down here to increase K to 1,000, no surprise again, this was 76.9% single pools. If we come over here to answers by pool stake and we click on it, obviously a different story. Why? Because multi-pools have multiple pools. They have a lot of delegation because they have a lot of pools. So 50% of the vote by stake so far has been to keep K at 500. And who do you think voted for this? Shocker again, this is 77.9% multi-pools. They're voting for this very heavily. And if you look at increase K to 1,000, the vote for decentralization, it's 57.6% single pools. If we come down here to keep min pool cost at 340 ADA, so no change to min pool cost. Who would be voting for this? So I think this is pretty predictable as well. The parties who love to farm the min pool cost, if we click on this one, 76% multi-pools voting for this option. And of course, they were outvoted. 51% of the vote, even by stake, was to reduce the min pool cost. If we come over here by pool, it's even a little bit higher. So by pool, it was 55.8% of the pools who voted to reduce min pool cost. And if we look at how that broke down, of course, again, very, very predictable. Single pools were 76% of the vote. Only 23% of the vote by pool here were multi-pool operators. You can see from these stats, it's very obvious that a lot of multi-poolers are voting their own pocketbook. They're voting in the manner that is toward their own economic self-interest, which is what we expect. This is what we expect from humans. Humans will largely vote in their own economic self-interest. They'll vote for their own pocketbooks in the short term, even over the benefit of the entire ecosystem. That's how humans are. So what do we have to do? We have to change the system. The way we can change the system here, we have to change the economic incentives so they don't have an incentive to vote against decentralization, to do things that are bad for decentralization. Multi-pooling is bad for decentralization. So they're going to vote in their own economic self-interest in this vote. But the great thing is we have two epochs here where the stake pool operators vote. And then we have another two epochs where you as delegators can redelegate if you don't think your stake pool is voting for decentralization. So if you believe in decentralization and you think your pool is not voting in favor of decentralization, you should redelegate. It's easy. Just delegate to any single pool operator who you think is voting in favor of decentralization. It's also really easy to check how your pool voted. So you can just come over here to the AdaStat dashboard. I'll put the link right in the description box. It'll be the first link in the description box. You can just click on that link and come over here. If you know the ticker for your pool, you can just put it in right here and hit that search button. Or you can just scroll. So I filtered by answer. I just clicked on this word answer here. And then I just kind of started scrolling. And you can see pretty soon we get to the first option they're going to show you is the don't change anything option. And you can see it's very easy to see that a bunch of multi-poolers are voting in this category. And they're multi-pools that are very well known to most people in the Cardano ecosystem. And you can see if they voted for no change, and that is not how you would vote. If you believe that that is not a vote for decentralization and you believe in decentralization, you should redelegate away from those pools. You can scroll down and find a whole bunch of pools down here that voted to change K to 1,000 and reduce min cost. I believe this is a vote for decentralization. There are a whole bunch of pools down here, mostly single pool operators. We do have a few shining examples of multi-poolers who voted for this category. They're quite commendable, and I pointed them out in the last video. But you could find all kinds of pools down here that voted for what is the vote for decentralization, in my opinion. If that's also your opinion and your pool didn't vote this way, you should redelegate. You can redelegate right now, or you're going to have two epochs to redelegate starting on Thursday, I believe. So you've got plenty of time. It's easy to redelegate. You've got lots of pools in here you can redelegate to. Oh man, guys, the fallout from Ledger Recover is still happening. So if you watch this channel, you know that there are a few fundamental principles that I think about with regard to crypto. One of those is decentralization, which has many different benefits that I've talked about ad nauseum on this channel. Another of them is self-custody. To me, there's great safety, there's great value in self-custody. One of those is that I don't have to trust anyone else to accidentally allow someone else to steal my assets. Self-custody also gives us a measure of anti-confiscation property in crypto. Crypto has this property of anti-confiscation. So it's not so much that I'm, contemplating doing something criminal that would make the government want to confiscate my assets. That's what I'm not worried about. I know I'm not going to do anything criminal that's going to make the government want to confiscate my assets. But my question is always, why would I want to make it possible for anyone to confiscate my assets? I know I'm not going to do anything criminal. Why would I ever allow something that makes it easier for anyone to confiscate my assets? So self-custody is very important to me. And part of that is the anti-confiscation value in self-custody. So what did the CEO of Ledger tell us just recently?
The only concern really is if we get subpoena by a government to say, now, this user specifically, we would like you to, retrieve the 3 shards, etc. So that's not a real concern in the end, because
Oh, is it not? Going from anti-confiscation self-custody to trusted custodian means that all of a sudden the government can confiscate your crypto. That's not really a big deal. So the CEO of Ledger, Pascal Gauthier, thinks it's not really a big deal. I think it's a pretty big deal, and I think a lot of the crypto space thinks it's a pretty big deal. Is Ledger Recover a good product for mainstreaming a lot of noobs to crypto, a lot of mainstream noobs? Sure. Would, possibly like my mother use Ledger Recover? Sure. If she had a small amount of crypto, I think it'd be fine for her to use Ledger Recover. Is this consistent with the ethos of crypto? For the last, over 1 decade, we've held certain things of prime importance. One of them is self-custody, and one of them is the anti-confiscation value of crypto. And this Ledger Recover functionality kind of does away with both of those. You are no longer engaging in self-custody if you are trusting a third-party custodian who could be subpoenaed by the government to give up your decrypted shards. Oh, how the mighty have fallen, guys. We've talked before about Digital Currency Group, DCG, on this channel. DCG was always a very important crypto entity. You can see here on their Wikipedia page, 50 billion in assets under management as of September 2021. Why was that? Because they count among their subsidiaries entities like Grayscale, also Genesis, also Foundry, also CoinDesk. So why am I saying that the mighty have fallen? Well, earlier today, we started seeing reports like this that honestly people have been expecting for a long time. This one says, update, it's official across different media outlets that DCG defaulted on its $630 million payment owed to Genesis Trading and other large creditors, to include Gemini. DCG is cash strapped, limited liquidity, and nobody has any interest in their assets or extending growth capital. Mediation has been nothing more than a PR move to delay the consequences of the lack of liquidity at the firm. So DCG, once a very powerful entity in crypto, now defaulting on payments owed. Finally, if you want to see the take of Cardano Foundation CEO Frederik Gregard on DeFi regulation, there's a City AM article just for you. So Frederik also put up this thread on Twitter where he explains that he advises adopting 4 principles for DeFi regulation. These are taking a coordinated approach, acknowledging DeFi's unique traits, considering DeFi in the context of the wider ecosystem, and ensuring new policies provide real clarity and certainty for the industry. I can definitely say in North America, we seem to have 0% of any of those 4 things. So even just one of those 4 things would definitely be welcome over here in North America. I think Europe is doing a little bit better, but certainly I hope they take advice on each of these 4 points. I hope you're having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.